replied, no, 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 we've already asked them to do that. They won't do it. Doesn't even good to ask. They already said no, they're not going to sign any of them. Just send us your $150. We'll send you the lithograph. Well, that didn't set too well with persistent Randey. So I sort of did what Abe Lincoln did. And you probably heard this story 1,000 times, but I'll share it again. One time they handed Abe an axe and said, Abe, we're going to give you 6 hours to cut down that tree. What are you going to do? So Abe said, well, I'm going to take the first 4 hours and sharpen the axe. In other words, what he's saying, he's going to think about this situation first, and he's just not going to take the axe and start chopping down a tree. So in other words, before we jump into a request or into some type of task, let's sit back and give it some serious thought. So that's why I hung up with the purveyor that day. I knew it would not do any good to start arguing with him or try to persuade him in any way. So I said, I'm going to give this some thought. I'm working on my 4 hours with Abe Lincoln here. I'm going to give it some thought. So after a week or two, I came up with a plan. Now, I knew I could not offer, here's the money part of this. I knew I could not offer this person money because I wanted him to, the person that I wanted to sign this, I knew I couldn't offer him money because he lived in Monaco, for example. And, if he lives in Monaco, he obviously didn't need any money, not hardly. So therefore, money was not a motivating factor. So after thinking about it for a couple of weeks and working with my 4 hours there with Abe Lincoln, I called the guy. I worked for the band, and I asked the guy, the person I knew, I said, hey, I want so-and-so to sign this thing in a certain way, but I'm asking you right now, does he have any charities that he donates to? And he said he would check and get back with me. And a couple of weeks later went by, and he called back and said, yeah, this person's mom had died from leukemia, and he donates a portion of his concerts and music and so on to the Leukemia Foundation. So I thought, aha, so I gave it a few more days to think, and I called the purveyor back, and I said, I would like to donate X amount of dollars to the Leukemia Foundation if he would sign this lithograph in a certain way. The purveyor, again, was negative. He said, I don't think he will. It really won't do any good to ask. He's just not going to do it. And I said, well, could you just please ask him? Tell him I'll donate to the Leukemia Foundation. And so long story short, a week or so goes by, and he calls me back, and he said, well, oddly enough, he said, if you give him proof that you donated what you said to the Leukemia Foundation, he will sign it. So again, long story short, I was happy to receive the signed lithograph. I displayed it proudly for several years, but where is it today? It's in storage, but so much for that. But nonetheless, I share this to the listeners who might not be able to think of a benefit that would make them want to do something that they really do not want to do. So that's just another insight to maybe sometimes dig a little deeper. And then the last insight I would like to add is the ever-present motivating factor that this person who wants to overcome this character flaw that we've been talking about can see a huge benefit right in front of them with the fact that they can smile at themselves since they figured out a way for them to make themselves do something they did not want to do. By doing this, I think they put them back on the road to integrity, trust, and respect. Does this still make sense to you, Steve?
Randey, I'm loving it. You talk about being so basic, and I don't know, they talk about people that have incredible wisdom as like, about as, sly old fox kind of thing maybe. But Randey, you didn't get to where you are with as many people that love you like I do by not doing everything that you said you would do. I mean, that's who you are. And so now you're talking real basic to try to help other people understand the different breakdowns of what it might entail with your characteristics and so forth. But when you did your Moody Bluegrass project, and you got 50 of the top people in bluegrass music together, including a couple of the original members of the Moody Blues that you were doing the tribute albums to, and including a member of the Eagles, and including Ricky Skaggs and Alison Krauss and some other of the top people that are in the world of bluegrass. Why did they commit to your project, Randey? Is it because you might have been a person that has done some things but didn't do other things that you said you do? No, Randey. It's because you're Randey Faulkner that has people know you as a person that's honorable, trustworthy, all the qualities that we're talking about. So we're kind of playing some of these things down a little bit, and I don't want to embarrass you by talking so nice about you, but Randey, you're a really good person that many people look to and say that's a man of character and integrity, and that's why I asked you to be on the show today. And so I do appreciate the humbleness that you're trying to break this down into its very basics. So did that answer your question? Am I getting anything out of what you're doing? I mean, Randey, you do the things that you're talking about.
I appreciate that. Thank you much, Steve. Thanks for the nice comment.
Well,
I'm not sure who you're talking about sometime, but I'll sit here and take it. I'll take it like a man.
Yeah, that's good. Knowing how to take a compliment's a virtue, by the way.
Oh, yes, that's true. Very true. Let's see. You had also asked me to possibly think about a couple of examples of people. Let's see, like a person who didn't do what they said they were going to do in my life, and to give you a couple examples. So I thought I'd give you the bad one first. I call it the bad one. For example, we had a tenant in one of our houses, and he's a real very positive guy, but he kept saying he's going to, he was a little late starting the rent, and then he kept promising he's going to get caught up. He's going to get caught up. And then he'd say, well, within 2 months, I'll be caught up. And anyway, over a period of a year, it went on. He never, ever did get caught up. So he never did what he said he was going to do. He would always say, well, I'm going to put in so much on Friday, and he'd be $50 short or whatever. So just one of those constant things for over a period of a year. So when it came along time to renew his lease, we told him, we said, we're not going to renew your lease. And he said, why? And that was my answer exactly. I said, because you don't do what you say you're going to do. And that was the exact reason. I mean, there was no other reason. That was it, plain and simple. He never got a whole month behind, but he just wouldn't do what it was just, it would almost make me stress out because he said he's going to put in 300, he'd only put in 2. It wasn't the money, it's just the idea that he didn't do what he said he's going to do. And then I got to go back and recalculate in my brain. So anyway, that was one example of, and he couldn't figure it out. He said, well, why aren't you going to renew my lease? And that was the answer, because you don't do what you say you're going to do. All right. So then,
can I give you a comment though?
Sure.
That's a perfect example. I mean, absolutely perfect. And you made me think at least 2 or 3 thoughts right off of that. There's a lot of people. I went to my high school 50th reunion last October, and we all know that some of the most popular, good-looking people that everybody wants to hang out with in high school, they peak out way too early, and by the time they get a little bit older, they're way over the hill. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then some of the sleepers that were like just the little shy ones that were like just nobody paid any attention to, they're like phenomenal human beings. They did great things with their life. They blossomed later. Just a beautiful thing. Well, I wrote down while you were talking about the guy that he just never did what he said he could do. He's always short on his rent, always talking a good game. Some people just don't understand that your looks and your charm will only carry you but so far if you don't follow through. I mean, a lot of people are still playing that high school thing where they think that just because I'm Mr. Popularity, I'm the good looking person here, that's all they need in life. No, that's very, very superficial. And the other one is much more serious. Napoleon Hill, when we did this the 57 Famous Alibis by Old Man If. I haven't read it in a couple shows in this series, but I'm going to read the 57th one more time because it's all we're talking about. And this is the greatest of them all. If I had the courage to see myself as I really am, I would find out what is wrong with me and correct it. Then I might have a chance to profit by my mistakes and learn something from the experience of others. For I know that there is something wrong with me, or I would now be where I would have been if I had spent more time analyzing my weaknesses and less time building alibis to cover them. Randey, this is one of the most serious things I've said in a while. One of the things that is the hardest thing for us to see in life is the proverbial deadbeat father, the person who hasn't accepted the responsibility of providing for his family and being the kind of person that his family needs to be supportive and loving and raise good kids and take care of his wife. And so when you talked to me just now about that simple example of your tenant that you didn't want to renew his lease because he wasn't a person of his word, just kept doing things, I find that to be somewhat of a selfish person, someone who is just looking after what they only want, what they want, not what others want. And that's what this show's about. We're trying to break the character flaw, but a deadbeat father is a tragedy in this life, because children are exposed to a parent who's not taking care of what he's supposed to do, and the children are going to suffer accordingly. Last scripture, as I throw it back to you, is Proverbs 18:1. An unfriendly person pursues selfish ends, and against all sound judgment starts quarrels. Now, somebody that's not doing what they said they were going to do will very often end in a quarrel, an argument, something that's just not going to go good. That young man or that person that was your tenant that you just said, hey, I appreciate and everything, but we just don't want to deal with it anymore. You know, if he didn't really understand his own character flaw, people like that have a tendency to blame it on somebody else because they're not accepting responsibility yet. And just because a person's selfish, I'm not saying that they're necessarily going to be unfriendly, but my definition of a friendly person is a person who's kind and nice to other people and considerate of others. And so if a person's very selfish and they've overlooked how they treat other people, then that can be interpreted by me as being an unfriendly person. So with that, Randey, it's very deep what we're talking about. You know, we can talk about it kind of simple examples here or there, but when it comes right down to it, it is basic. It's very simple. Are you going to be a person that only does what you want to do and puts yourself before everyone else? So I'm going to throw it back to you because you're moving my thinking along, and I greatly appreciate what you're doing today to take this time to delve into this basic human nature.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Since I gave what I call a bad example, I'd like to give a couple of examples of people I do admire. And the first one that came to mind when I started thinking of people that do exactly what they say they're going to do, first one that came to mind is Don Green, the CEO of the Napoleon Hill Foundation. His mother drilled into him at a very early age to always do what you say you're going to do. Don't say it unless you plan on following through. That's what Don has told me time and time again, because I will ask him something, and not only does he say he's going to do it, but he does it immediately. And you probably notice that about him too.
Yeah.
It's not the fact that he says he's going to do it and maybe he'll get it done tomorrow or the next day. He does it immediately. So his mother, and I compliment him on that. And he goes back, well, my mother taught me that at a young age, just follow through with what I'm going to do. So best way to do it is just do it right now. So that's why I got it done. I said, so you have to admire that in a person. Another person I greatly admire is my mother-in-law, Carmen Marquez. She's a beautiful 86-year young aged lady, and she's been raising these two small great-grandchildren for the past 10 years. Now they're teenagers. But she's so busy tending to their needs, as well as her husband, Andy, who's he'll be 90 this year. So she has all these other responsibilities. But she's the exact same way. When she says she's going to do something, she does it, and she does it right now. For example, she said last week, oh, my lemons and my oranges are ready. I'll send you a box. 3 days later, here we got a huge box of lemons and oranges came in the mail, So